Good morning, Springfield. Good morning, Springfield, and welcome to this very first episode of this weekly spotlight by Springfield News Sun, produced by right here at NDL, the New Diaspora Studio. And I'm your host, Miguelito Jerome, and I'm thrilled to be here today as we embark to this new journey together. So this show is all about diving deep into the stories that matter most to our community here in Springfield. Every week, we'll try to, bring you the latest headlines, and from breaking news to local events, and to insightful discussion on the issues shaping Springfield and beyond. For this premiere episode, guys, so we got a lot to cover. We're here with Josh and of course Jessica right here from Springfield News Sun that will bring all the news to you guys. And from these very first episode, we got a lot to cover. We're kicking things off with a look at the U.S. election results, which have been dominating basically conversation across the nation. And we'll dive into what's happening right here in Springfield and how our community is reacting and what these results could mean for the future. And that's really important, right? So that's not all. We also will touch base to the local events, different projects and stories happening and making waves here in town. So whether you're tuning into your car or you're listening from your phone at home or catching us online later, we want to thank you for being part of this moment. So let's get started, guys. So here we are, Josh
Swigert.
Swigert.
Editor at the Springfield News Sun, and honored to be here. I want to thank NDL for partnering with us on this effort. The Springfield News Sun for 126 years has been serving this community, helping people understand what's going on, helping to engage in the community, and part of that involves engaging with all aspects and segments of the community. We firmly believe that an informed and engaged community is a healthier community. So it's one of the reasons why we're happy to be involved in this effort. We want to talk about the biggest stories from the last week and make sure that everyone is aware of what's going on in the community, and so they can take part, obviously focused on national issues as much as they impact the Springfield region, state issues as they impact the local region, and the local news that you can't get anywhere else except from the Springfield News Sun.
That's awesome. And of course, we are with Jessica Orozco. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. And can you please introduce yourself and tell us about you?
Yeah. Also, I love that you pronounced my last name so perfectly. I'm Jessica Orozco. I'm a reporter for the Springfield News Sun.
All right, very good. So, today we are here. It's November 11th. It's the Veterans Day. That's correct.
Yes.
So, what does that mean, Veterans Day, for our Haitian immigrants listening to you guys today?
I mean, Veterans Day for all Americans and people who are in this country, it's about an idea, right? I mean, the veterans who served our country are fighting for and representing the idea of freedom. And so I would hope that everyone kind of takes a moment and contemplates that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, all right. So we know that last week was a heavy week for everyone here, in town and the country too, because it was election week pretty much. So what do you guys have in in your agenda today for us about the election? How was the election week, and even prior to that, how was the election for you guys?
So it's obviously a very large and consequential election. So I want to talk for a moment about again how these things impact Ohio. Everyone saw the election results. Trump had a resounding victory in the Electoral College in Ohio. His vote tally was exceedingly high. The percentage he got was higher than he got the last time he was elected. In fact, the last time any presidential candidate won by this wide of a margin was 40 years ago in the state of Ohio. So a resounding victory for Trump's reelection campaign. And this has a lot of implications. The red wave went all the way down the ticket, and the implications for that are extremely large for lots of different people, including obviously the Haitian community. Immigration is one of the top, if not the top issue of debate in the presidential election. And so we are looking into and investigating how these things are going to be impacted. I know Jessica, a lot of talk has been about the TPS program and the future of the TPS program. I think you've talked to some people about that. If you could bring us up to speed on what they're saying.
Yeah, so this morning I spoke with Katie Kirsch. She's a senior attorney at Able, which is advocates for basic legal equality. They work with a lot of immigrants, a lot of people in general, but a lot of Haitian immigrants. Today she told me, I asked her about, there's a lot of concern about TPS, asylum. Trump has talked about mass deportations, and he specifically called out Springfield. Said that's one of the places that he would start. But Katie told me this morning that mass deportations are difficult. Everybody in the U.S. has the right to a hearing. So whether you're on TPS, you're on parole, you have no status, anything at all, you have a right to a hearing. And immigration courts are extremely backlogged. So it's very unlikely that mass deportations would even occur. You're not going to have a bunch of people on a plane in one day because they all have to.
Right. I mean, Springfield has sort of a unique role within the broader immigration debate because most people, they think of illegal immigration. Well, Springfield's story is not largely one of illegal immigration. It's legal immigration, the TPS program, and these are legal mechanisms. And so when Trump talked about Springfield during the campaign, there was misinformation that got that whole thing going. I'm not going to go through all that because everyone's well aware. And he vowed to start here. It's not the same as the rest, obviously, of his immigration vows because there's a process, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
so they can't just deport people because they're here legally. They have permission to be here.
Right.
And so, I mean, the TPS program expires in 2026.
February
26.
2026.
Right.
He would have to either end it early, which it's very, very likely he would have a lot of court cases against that. A lot of legal action would be taken against that. And it's debatable, how the courts would uphold it. But in the past, his effort in his last administration, that failed. The court said that was, illegal. So he could try ending it early, or once that expires, he could just end it. Decide not to redesignate it, not renew it.
So pretty much, like you said, the Haitians are under the TPS, right? So therefore,
a lot of them are.
A lot of
yes.
them. Okay. Therefore,
the
they're
parole
legal.
parole program or TPS, but it's a legal process.
Yes,
Okay.
but the parole program he could end.
Right.
And if that's ending, if you're under parole and you don't have another status, then you're already undergoing removal proceedings technically. Until you get that other status, until you get asylum or until you get TPS. So if that parole program is ended, and you don't have another status, somebody could seek asylum, but it's a lot easier for you to be removed that way.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then, obviously that's the federal level. On the state-ish level, I mean, there's a senatorial race. That was a huge upset. Sherrod Brown has been a long time been a senator representing Ohio, was beat in the polls by Bernie Moreno, who also visited Springfield before the election during the campaign and vowed to begin deportation proceedings here. So what's interesting is we know where Moreno stands. What we don't know is what happens to the other Ohio senator, which is J.D. Vance. He becomes the vice president, and his seat is appointed by the governor. And so that's the big X factor, is Mike DeWine gets to choose somebody to fill a U.S. Senate seat to replace J.D. Vance. And what that person's views on immigration, we don't know. We don't know who that person is. So that could have some major implications. It's such a tight boundary or margin within the U.S. Senate. So that's another thing we'll be watching, is the governor of Ohio appointing someone to replace that position to fill J.D. Vance's spot, and what that means, again, for the local community.
So pretty much the Governor DeWine will have to appoint someone before January 20th, or how does that work?
I think what's expected is that J.D. Vance will step down early in order to take the vice presidency without any seamlessly. And so, the governor would appoint somebody. Then that person would have to stand for re-election in 2026 to fill out the remainder of the term, and then have to run again for re-election in 2028 for the next full term. So there's lots of people being talked about. It's anyone's guess. I mean, inside Mike DeWine's brain. But I mean, any state level office holder, Frank LaRose, the Secretary of State, we know that he has run for Senate before, so he wants the job because he ran against J.D. Vance. And Matt Dolan, who's run for senator. So there's a number of people that are discussed. People have talked about Vivek Ramaswamy, though he might be the Secretary of State.
Yeah, I heard it.
So it's there's lots of people knocking down Mike DeWine's door right now trying to get that seat. And so like we said, the election was the big story of the week. There's national elections. There's the state level elections. Issue 1 being defeated is something that we're writing about and following the implications of. That was the Ohio redistricting amendment that would have changed how legislative maps are drawn. That has huge consequence for the control and the balance of power on the national level and the state level. Whether that's going to be tried again, whether anyone's going to bring forward another redistricting proposal is yet to be seen. And so we'll be following on that. And then on the local level, tell us the outcome of some of the races. Not a whole lot of upsets, right?
Yeah, there were a lot of uncontested races, so we'll see the same people in, or a new person like the sheriff. He won his primary in March, so we will see Christopher Clark. He will be the new sheriff over Deb Burchett.
So Christopher Clark, tell us about him. What's his sort of...
He was a major for for Sheriff Burchett for a long time, but he was fired last year.
And then ran for election to challenge the sheriff.
He challenged the sheriff, and he won by a very large margin.
Right.
So we'll see him. And then another countywide race is the Clark County Commission. Current Commissioner Lowell McLaughlin has decided not to rerun for election. He's stepping down. So we saw a contested race. Charlie Patterson, former health commissioner, he won that by a pretty good margin.
So what's some of his history? Tell me about Charlie Patterson and what sort of things he's known for in the community.
Yeah. So Charlie Patterson, he was the health commissioner for more than 20 years. He did a lot of work. Obviously, he was very busy during COVID. He worked on vaccine clinics. He did a lot of work on swine flu, which is H1N1. He also did a lot of work with the Haitian community. Charlie Patterson helped hire a lot of the Haitian interpreters who work in the health department, try to serve that community, because the health department does work with a lot of members of the Haitian community. He helped organize a lot of the efforts just throughout the community, as far as supporting the Haitian community and making sure that they have all the health care that they need.
He, I think, helped create some of the programs that are still in place to help.
Yes,
right?
Yes, he did.
And so you got a new sheriff, new county commissioner. The rest of the races are, no big surprises anywhere else.
No big surprises.
The incumbents won. But in addition to the races, there are some inconsequential tax issues that voters also voted on that you've been covering. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the main tax issue, actually, which Brooke has been covering. But so we had the Clark County CTC, their levy just passed on the third try. If it hadn't passed, they would have lost some state funding. So this allows them to get new buildings. They've had these buildings for a long time. And their superintendent has said that over several years, they've had around 700 students that they've had to turn down just because of space issues. But if they had this new building, or this expansion, I should say, then they wouldn't have had to deny those students. And yeah, like I said, it was just based solely on space.
So do we know of all 700? I mean, once this thing is in place, will we be able to attend, or?
Yeah, we would. I mean, it was over several years, but
right.
Yeah, they would be accepted. As long as they're meeting all their requirements.
All right, very good, very good. So, Josh and Jessica, can you please tell us more about the different issues? Because I myself, I was confused with the issue 1 because my wife thought it was about the abortion. Can you go over, explain our community what exactly the issue and different issues, if any?
So yeah, one piece of legislation that a lot of reporters like is that there's a proposal so that we don't keep using issue 1 over and over again, and each issue has a whole new number, because part of the problem is we've had 3 issue 1s in the last 18 months. So the first issue 1 had to do with how the Constitution is amended. There's a second issue 1, and that was last August, I believe. The second issue 1 last November was the abortion vote, and that was an issue 1. And then this year we have another issue 1, which is a hugely consequential. But the most recent issue 1 had nothing directly to do with abortion or rewriting the Constitution. The issue 1 that was on the ballot last week had to do with how congressional districts are drawn. So the current Ohio Constitution has a process in place to draw legislative boundaries and congressional boundaries. Literally, the map that shows if you live right here, this person is the one who represents you in Congress and Senate and the U.S. House. The State House. So how they draw those maps is hugely consequential because you can draw them to include tons of Democrats in a district and create more Republican districts or Democratic districts. You can gerrymander, as they call it, to play with the maps to give one party undue preference over the other in the elections just by how you draw, whether you draw historically leaning neighborhoods that are Democrat or Republican in them. So this proposal would have changed that to make it so citizens are involved, not politicians. And it was, there was a lot of debate about whether or not it would have had the desired outcome, whether it would have actually changed anything. At the end of the day, the voters decided against it. The people who support it, who support issue 1, who called for reform, they blame the way that the ballot was written. There was a process by which the issue was described on the ballot, and the issue 1 proponents say that the people who wrote the ballot, who were opposed to issue 1, made it confusing and misleading. The people who opposed issue 1 say that the voters have spoken, and people just didn't like the idea. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of controversy about whether this was the best approach. Going forward, there's still a lot of people who think that the system does not work properly. The Dayton Area Chamber of Commerce has come out, and others have come out saying that we need to change the process, but what exactly that looks like and whether there's political will to do that, that's yet to be seen.
So on that matter, what is the position of Ohio with the abortion so far? What do we have?
Where Ohio is at now, I mean, we passed a abortion amendment last year to enshrine abortion access in the state constitution. There's 2 things that are going to impact that. One, both related to last week's vote. One of those is the Ohio Supreme Court. So last week, Ohio voters gave all 3 seats that were on the ballot to Republicans, very, very strong Republican majority. The 7-person Ohio Supreme Court now has 6 Republicans and 1 Democrat. Ohio Right to Life and other anti-abortion groups are very happy about that because they see that the next step in last year's issue 1 and the new abortion rights is a lot of stuff still has to be interpreted. So the courts have to decide, okay, when we say, when we use certain terms in the law, what does that mean? What is the point in which abortions are going to be allowed? What procedures are going to be allowed? And so the courts will have to determine all of that. What existing laws contradict the Constitution and need to be repealed or thrown out? The Supreme Court is going to have to make a lot of those decisions. So the Right to Life people are happy that there's 6 Republicans on the Supreme Court and hopeful that that'll help their cause. The other issue is the national election. I mean, whether or not there's a national abortion ban, which would override Ohio's constitutional protections on abortion. It's unclear exactly what Trump and the Senate and the House are going to pursue, if anything. Bernie Moreno, who's now Ohio's new incoming U.S. Senator, had said in the past he'd voiced support for certain abortion restrictions, but then later came back and said that it should be left up to the states. So it's unclear if there's going to be national will to address that. But on the state level, there's certainly some implications for the state Supreme Court race.
So we know that like we said, Governor DeWine will appoint a new senator in the Sherwood Brown's, J.D. Vance seat, right? That new senator will have the rest of the term of J.D. Vance or a new term on you?
Yeah, so that new senator will serve until they'll have to stand for re-election in 2026. And then if they win, they'll serve the rest of J.D. Vance's term, which ends in 2028. So they'll have to stand for election. They'll have to do a primary and then a general in 2026, and then a primary and a general in 2028. So U.S. senators are usually 6-year terms. but this Senate seat will be on the ballot multiple times over the course of 6 years.
All right. So, I'm just going over different front page from Springfield News Sun, and, one of the things that
Thanks for reading.
Yeah.
is actually President-elect has vowed to reshape federal government. And, there's a lot of things that we know that even in New York right now, there's a lot of tension on what's going to change. And we recently read about an article about a new law that passed in Arizona about the police now can arrest illegal immigrants in Arizona and stuff like that. Is it something that you guys are aware around, or is it?
I mean, there's no question in anyone's mind that the last week's election was consequential. Exactly what things look like. I mean, the ability for local law enforcement to enforce federal immigration law is something that's been debated for a long time. I remember going to Arizona years ago when they passed some legislation allowing that. And I covered some of that in Arizona. So that's something that's yet to be seen, exactly how you go about. Trump and Moreno, along with him, have vowed the biggest deportation in U.S. history. What that looks like and how you do that is a very, very big question.
I think that's the question that most people, even in our community, even though we're legal, most of us, but we're still thinking about that. And the thing is, we have to be aware of how this could end up in some discrimination or abuse of power and stuff like that. And is there any institution or entities here in town that can actually control or oversee how the deportation will happen if the mass deportation ever happened?
Well, I mean, again, there's two different processes, right? You have the illegal immigrants, and then you have the legal immigrants. And then the legal immigrants have a myriad different ways of being here, whether they be H-1B visas or asylum or refugee status or parole or TPS. And so each of those things is a different rulemaking process that'll have to be, the government will have to put rules in place, which takes a long time for the government to act, historically at least. And then the courts, there's been challenges in the courts. So, I mean, exactly how fast and how thorough all of this is depends a lot on what happens in the courts, especially. Like Jessica mentioned, the last time that Trump was in power, he attempted to end TPS, and that whole thing got held up in the courts for the majority of his administration. And it just expired before he ever got a chance to do it. That's going to be the big question, is exactly what the courts have to say about that, the bureaucracy of it. I mean, it just takes a long time to put these things in place. I mean, so if you're talking about illegal immigrants, I mean, there's some easier things you can do to begin, if you, not necessarily going door to door, but if you pull somebody over for not having a driver's license, exactly what happens next, like mandating that they be detained instead of released on probation or bond or something like that. So there's certainly ways to address that. I mean, anyone with legal status, they have legal status, so you have to go through a process to revoke that status. So I mean, there should be not a knee-jerk, quick reaction, but I expect it to take a while for any of these things to actually go into effect.
Yeah, man. So most people are wondering nowadays, will we ever have a female president? Just like I'm looking from one of your front page. After Trump went with Hillary Clinton, went with Kamala Harris, and both of them lost. You think in the future we may have other female candidate in the ballot?
Almost certainly. I mean, there's strong candidates on both parties. I mean, if it's 51% of the population, yeah, I think it's only a matter of time before there's a female president.
All right. So before we jump into the next topic, we want to take a moment to thank our listeners, and don't forget you can join the conversation by leaving a comment or questions below. We'd love to hear what you think about today's topic, but also to make sure that we are interacting with you guys. So let's go and I see you after this break. Introducing Alliance Magazine, a celebration of Haitian culture, community, and resilience. Each month, we bring you stories of inspiring Haitians, cultural traditions, recipes, health tips, and more. With each purchase, you're not only connecting with the Haitian experience, you're supporting community programs that makes a real difference. Every page brings us together, and every purchase fuels our cause. Get your copy of the Alliance Magazine today. Celebrate, connect, support. Order now. Call 844-422-2139 or visit our website www.haitiancommunityalliance.org.
Bonsoir, Namwense Courtney, and I just want to say that the Alliance Magazine is such a cool way for us to get informed about the Haitian community and blend and learn some knowledge and share together.
Diaspora haïtien k'ap vive tout côté pour étudier, apprendre métier en ligne, pas hésiter checker NDS, New Diaspora School, et puis mettez au cool pour apprendre métier ou vle, j'en vle, sous téléphone ou, sous ordinateur ou soit dans salle classe nous, dans Springfield, Ohio. New Diaspora School a bon plusieurs métiers manuels, professionnels et informatique pour aider tête ou, famille ou, et pays ou. NDS, New Diaspora School, yon l'école crédible ak professeur haut calibre qui bon plus passé 20 classes online ak diplôme pour fonctionner États-Unis ak plus passé 100 l'autre pays sous la terre. Nous gen classe langue, assurance, taxes, immigration, construction, plomberie, électricité et latrier. Ak New Diaspora School, c'est diplômé jodi, travail demain. Pas dit ou pas connaît, relez-nous dans 937 637 27 28 ou bien montez sur www.newdiasporaschool.com.
Ou gen business, ou ap vendre produit ou soit service, ou voulez voir business ou monter plus haut, pas chercher plus loin. NZL Marketing Group, c'est celle compagnie marketing qui a aidé à joindre un service complet sous toute forme. Que ce travail graphique, site internet, placement sur radio et télévision, créer vidéo percutant pour attirer clientèle, nous là. Et c'est celle nous comme ça. NZL Marketing Group a aidé à gérer les réseaux sociaux, fait un plus gros impact, fait shooting vidéo pour vous, photoshoot, créer spot avec l'autre contenu qui a captivé le public si là. En gros, NZL Marketing Group, c'est plus qu'une agence marketing digital. C'est un partenaire dévoué qui l'a pour aider à transformer l'idée en succès garanti. Contactez-nous dans 937 939 2435 jeudi à même pour discuter de l'entreprise et comment service nous capable d'aider à aller plus loin. We're back. You're listening to the weekly spotlight. We are bringing you the best and all the breaking news and information that you should know, especially the Haitian community. All these content will be translated in French and in Creole, so stay tuned to our different channel. So, Jessica, what on your end do you have for about any breaking news, any new information locally?
Yeah, so over the past week, we've seen a lot of concern about a patrol commander with the Clark County Sheriff's Office. He made some Facebook posts. He said that he would not help Democrats if they were in trouble through his role. So there were a lot of concerns and there was a lot of backlash. The Sheriff's Office initially just gave him a written reprimand. They said they didn't believe that his comments would have any kind of impact on his ability to do his job. He said that he made these comments while he was under the influence of the sleep medication that he was taking,
Really?
which he said has in the past caused him to have other communications that were out of character, whether that was texts, emails, social media posts, all kinds of other things. He said that.
So you made one post or multiple?
He made multiple posts.
Wow.
Varying degrees of just everything to the effect of he would not help Democrats if they were in need through his job.
And he just said Democrats. He's not talking about immigrants or anything.
He
like
said
that.
Democrats.
Democrats.
He said
Wow.
Democrats. If he found out that you voted for Kamala Harris, if you were a Democrat, he's not gonna waste ammo on you. So after he received the written reprimand, the sheriff's office said they continued evaluating the situation. He apologized. He wrote a very lengthy apology, saying he felt that, he felt awful that this did not reflect his views, that the sleeping medication made him act out of character, and he would in fact help Democrats if they were in need. And then the sheriff's office ended up putting him on leave. And then once he returns, he will undergo some mandatory training.
And so the response from the sheriff's office to all of that was that this is not appropriate, right? I mean,
right. They were saying this is not okay. They did say they felt it wouldn't necessarily impact his ability to do his job because, like, they said they believed that these statements were out of character for him. But yes, they ultimately placed him on leave after some further review and, reiterated that this is not, the behavior becoming of a member of the sheriff's office. This is not their view.
Right.
They help every member of the community regardless of any kind of identifier.
and there is some also other tragic recent news that I know you're following, Jessica. Incident that happened over the weekend involving a teenager, right?
Yes, a teenager who goes to Kenton Ridge. He was unfortunately killed in what police say was an accidental shooting. Some friends came over and looks like they were playing with a gun. The teen who ended up shooting him by accident, he was pointing the pistol at him. After he had removed the magazine, he believed it was empty, but there was still a bullet in the chamber. So when he pulled the trigger, it unfortunately struck the student, and he died at the hospital. Kenton Ridge is a tight-knit community. The school has deployed their trauma response team for support for that community for anybody who's been impacted.
So the victim was a Kenton Ridge student, tragically dead. The person they believe did it was a 16-year-old also.
He was a 16-year-old. We don't know yet if he was a Kenton Ridge student.
And they were messing around with a gun, allegedly,
Yes,
and just thought it was empty.
He's being charged with third-degree felony reckless homicide.
Right. So we'll be following up on that.
Yes, we will.
All right. Also, I read recently about some racist scam text that a lot of Ohioan and students from Ohio State were receiving. What do you guys know about that?
So, yes, there's still, we found out today that the Ohio Attorney General's office is investigating that. We are looking into that ourselves. I've personally not heard of anyone in the local community receiving these, but people in Ohio have. And we've certainly spoken to people who, in the local community, who are concerned about this. These texts make racist references, saying things like you need to report to a plantation at this time and date, referencing returning slavery. And so we've talked to people with the local and the state NAACP who've expressed very strong concerns about finding people who did this and addressing it, because it just adds an unnecessary level of fear to the community that they're hoping to address. We'll say that in the near future, we're reaching the end of the legislative year for the Ohio General Assembly, and at the end of the year, a lot of the lawmakers are leaving and they enter what's called lame duck session. And during lame duck, there's lots of legislation that gets just pushed through really fast. And so that's something we always keep an eye on. We have a bureau in Columbus that's keeping an eye on that. There's a lot of legislation that usually passes in the last month and a half of the year in that lame duck session. And it's, you name it, it touches everything from taxes to guns to businesses to anything. So we'll be keeping an eye on that and definitely have a lot of more reporting on that.
Thank you very much. I think we actually did our, go over pretty much all the news here locally. And and especially about the elections. A lot of people are concerned even now on what will happen, can happen, could happen. So
we know what they said they're going to do, and now it's just a matter of keeping track and finding out what's actually going to happen going forward.
Right. Will they follow through?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so that's a wrap for our first episode of the weekly spotlight by Springfield News Sun and NDL Studio. It's been, it's been great diving into big stories of the week. As we could see Jessica and Josh talking about different headlines for this week. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, and your support and engagement make this show what it is today. So remember to follow us on social media, share your thoughts, and let us know what you want to hear about next, and we're just getting started, and there's plenty more to come. So every week we have the headlines. We're talking about different topics, the main topics. So I'm Miguel the Drum, and on behalf of Jeff and Jessica right here and the whole NDL Studio team, have a fantastic week. Springfield, stay informed, stay connected, and we'll see you next week. Introducing Alliance Magazine, a celebration of Haitian culture, community, and resilience. Each month, we bring you stories of inspiring Haitians, cultural traditions, recipes, health tips, and more. With each purchase, you're not only connecting with the Haitian experience, you're supporting community programs that makes a real difference. Every page brings us together, and every purchase fuels our cause. Get your copy of the Alliance Magazine today. Celebrate, connect, support. Order now. Call 844-422-2139 or visit our website www.haitiancommunityalliance.org.
Bonsoir, Nam Wense Courtney, and I just want to say that the Alliance Magazine is such a cool way for us to get informed about the Haitian community and blend and learn some knowledge and share together.
Diaspora haïtien k'ap vive tout côté pour étudier, apprendre métier en ligne, pas hésiter checker NDS, New Diaspora School, et puis mettez au cool pour apprendre métier ou vle, j'en vle, sous téléphone ou, sous ordinateur ou soit dans salle classe nous, dans Springfield, Ohio. New Diaspora School a bon plusieurs métiers manuels, professionnels et informatique pour aider tête ou, famille ou, et pays ou. NDS, New Diaspora School, yon l'école crédible ak professeur haut calibre qui bon plus passé 20 classes online ak diplôme pour fonctionner États-Unis ak plus passé 100 l'autre pays sous la terre. Nous gen classe langue, assurance, taxes, immigration, construction, plomberie, électricité et latrier. Ak New Diaspora School, c'est diplômé jodi, travail demain. Pas dit ou pas connaît, relez-nous dans 937 637 2728 ou bien montez sur www.newdiasporaschool.com.
Ou gen business, ou ap vend produit ou soit service, ou vle voye business ou monter pi wok, pas chercher pi loin. NDL Marketing Group, c'est celle compagnie marketing qui a aidé ou joindre un service complet sous toute forme. Que ce travail graphique, site internet, placement sur radio et télévision, créer vidéo percutant pour attirer clientèle, nous là, et c'est celle nous comme ça. NDL Marketing Group a aidé à gérer les réseaux sociaux, fait un plus gros impact, fait shooting vidéo pour vous, photoshoot, créer spot avec l'autre contenu qui a captivé le public si là. En gros, NDL Marketing Group, c'est plus qu'une agence marketing digital, c'est un partenaire dévoué qui l'a pour aider à transformer l'idée en succès garanti. Contactez-nous dans 937 939 2435 jeudi à même pour discuter de l'entreprise et comment service nous capable d'aider à aller plus loin.